Hey everyone. We today at the House of Wisdom in Sharjah. We have our meeting today at between the books, where it's all started here in the House of Wisdom. Today it's the second session of Creativity Talks, and we're talking about when words dance with music. My guest today is Doha Awad, a British Yemeni born in London and lived in 6 different countries, including UAE, where she's residing now. She had a degree in genetics, but she followed her calling of art. So she worked in creativity and art. Even though she held a scientific degree, she began her media career at BBC London, producing storyline and visuals for documentary. She worked at Dubai Film Festival, the first film festival in Dubai, and produced different programs for NBC, City 7 TV, and moderator at the Emirates Airline Festival of Literature. She's working now on her historical fiction and also continue to develop her blog in poetry. Today, we will talk about her special creativity, poetry, and music. Welcome to you, Doha. Thank you for joining me today here at this special place.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
For your pleasure.
We'll talk about first what inspired you. How did you start this special in poetry and music?
As a child, I always had love for classical music. It was one of these things that no one understood why, because for a child, you like maybe simpler music, pop, rock. I always liked classical. And I always imagined I had these visuals every time I listened to a piece. I could imagine where it could be, if it would be a movie or a story, how I would use that music. But the actual writing to music came to me in 2015 when I left Dubai and moved back to the UK, and it was a big change. I just had my second child. There were so many changes, and it became a way of it. I didn't even think at that time it was poetry. I actually thought it was just a self-reflecting, expressing, and I used it as that. So there would be a piece of music and I would just feel, I feel like writing this, and the words would just flow.
Okay, so the music comes first and then the words, or which one comes first?
It started with music. I would listen to a piece of music and it will just trigger visuals in me that would transform into words. And later on, it became also topics that will be close to my heart or something I felt that moment. And the interesting thing, I would be like, okay, I have these words, but what music goes with it? And suddenly I would just have in the back of my mind a piece that I heard or I knew, and I think, yes, this goes with this. It's like a recipe.
That's amazing. Like you can combine these, like
it
just
works
by listening it or by having the words and listening.
Yes, it goes different ways. So sometimes it's the music that brings on the words. Sometimes it's the topic that brings the words, evokes the words, and then the music just helps it to flow.
And it's always classical music?
No, there are a few that are more modern pieces, but I would say most of the time they are on this classical style. But definitely there are some that are more modern music, yes. But they tend to be always instrumental rather than I can't play. I can't write words when there are lyrics in a song, for example. Yeah. So I would always have to have it with instrumental so that the words can.
And it hasn't to be like a certain thing. It's not like piano. It has to be piano music, or it just has to be something special, or.
No, it doesn't. It's the tune. It's the way. It's just what the tune and what it evokes and triggers in me. Not, the instrument itself doesn't really matter. I mean, I love piano and I love the violin sound and the cello. So it depends on the piece.
And so what kind of subject do you write about? I mean, when you started, you said 2015, you start realizing this is poetry and this is what I'm writing, music. Tell us about your journey from then to now.
So it's funny you ask this question because I have now written, I don't know, over 100 of poems. And the older ones I have, I can't even read them anymore because I feel like, okay, I've passed from that stage of life. They were written at this time. I had those feelings, and now I've moved on. It's like you know, it's like my life story of kind of maturity, the process I've gone through. So I remember the first one I wrote was called "In the Name of God We Fight," and it was just triggered by me watching something on the news that I felt like everybody's using the name of God in their fights. And there was a piece of music at that time that I could hear in my head. And so I started with that one. Then it was a lot of other poems that, with the move also, I started to go through identity and questioning myself. It was a lot of question. So my first stage was a lot of questioning about the world and myself. And how I belong and what I am and who I am and who are we as humans. Are we an ID card, or are we what are we? Number, passport number. So it went from these questions to a more going deeper into our own essence as humans, as creatures, that we belong to the same Mother Earth. And I see that evolving now differently. As someone pointed to me, a good friend of mine who reads a lot, almost reads everything I write, and she said to me, you started by writing about yourself and what you think, and now you're writing for others.
Okay. And how do you think, what's make you change this way? Is it maturity, or is it like different things that happen? So you're talking about the whole world rather than your own life matters.
Exactly. It's I think partly maturity as we grow, as we look at people around us, as we see what people achieve around us with little things, the hope those people that do good in this world bring to our lives. There is also that part of starting to look at that life differently. So I think, you know, that time there was many changes. So I was seeing life in a different eye. And as I grew older and seen things and journeys, and I learned a lot, and I met a lot of people that helped me through this journey. So I can't credit it all to me just coming up with this. There were so many people I met along the way that made me realize the beauty of little things that sometimes we cross and we don't even notice, and how we can look at everything with that we might think is negative, but if we try to look at it in a different way with different eyes, even though they're still the same eyes, we will see a completely different story that is much more positive. So it's like what I call a positive mind shift that happened.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. But you're so much into words and music and things. So what made you study scientific study?
Well, a few factors. Do you remember, I'm sure you recall in the old days, how it used to be regarding if you did science degree, you were bright, and if you did arts, you were like the one who didn't get enough marks in secondary school.
Yeah.
So I think there was that element, but I have to say I was always fascinated with science. I always loved the subject, especially biology. Again, nature, earth, everything related. And I loved history and I loved geography. So all these combined, but the reason I went into genetics was actually because of a fruit fly that I thought, why is the female bigger than the male? And I wanted to study more about that.
So it's more about questioning things, also like poetry, like your own poetry.
Exactly, analyzing, exactly. So you're going into the analysis, wanting to understand more. So that's why I feel like my degree actually contributed more towards what I write and my understanding of the world and how I look at things than maybe most people would think. And if we think about it, there are loads of poets that we have in history that were actually doctors or scientists. Yeah. But art was something close to my heart. As a child, I loved to read and I loved to write. And I have a lot of actually old writings in Arabic when I was a kid. That I reflected on recently. And this was always my way of expressing myself.
Yeah,
through words.
That's great. That's great. So let us listen to one of your poems with music, and let's our guests listen to that.
Okay, let's get the music.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll hear now Can you tell us the poem and what kind of music, what's the music you're using?
So so this poem, and I have to say here that it's again inspired by my beautiful group, the Readers Majlis ladies, that I joined back in March. It was my first time meeting them, thanks to our dear Nawal Shawi.
So it's a book club based in Dubai.
It's a book club that based in Dubai with an amazing concept that is different than any book club I've been to, because it's theme based. So everyone is free to read about the subject or the theme in their own language, whatever they want to read, and come together and discuss it. And I find it one of the most enriching clubs I've ever joined, and inspiring, because these ladies always push me forward. So as I can't sometimes read books, I end up offering a poem on the theme instead.
And then also the poem, can you tell us about the poem? I mean, what made you write
So
it?
the theme at that time was about cultures. So I wanted to write something related to a subject, and I called it A Little Talk About Cultures. And the music that inspired this poem is called River by Alexander Desplat, and it's part of the soundtrack of a beautiful movie called The Tree of Life. So I would read that for you. I'll start to play the music. And you talk about cultures. And what is that? Our differences, our similarities, our common grounds to place our picnic mats, or our connections on LinkedIn, or disconnections on Facebook, our followers on Instagram, or our points of dispute, and maybe whatever and possibly soever agreements. You ask about cultures, you question, you ask again, you argue, you may win, or maybe you are defeated, like on the board of a chess game. Or you are all equal on a land that knows nothing but the dust and air that surrounds it. And I ask myself, is it the color of the skin? Is it the nuance of the hair? Is it the shape of the eyes? The length of the eyelashes? Or the way a smile is formed? And then I ask you, what reflection do we leave under the shining sun? What sky rises above our heads? What moon watches us at night? What shadows do we create from the grounds of a big, awesome tree? What air do we inhale? What are the songs of our hearts? What colors are our souls? What taste are our tears? What muscles move when we laugh? What sound do we make when we are born? What ashes do we leave 6 feet under? All the same, just the same, and nothing other than the same. Only for our remains to mingle with the earth that we belong to, and for a little bush to grow strong and vibrant, to bring us back to where we began, a soul, a simple, sweet, magnificent one, watching above all, waiting for the right time to come back, to join a new culture, to learn more, to grow more, to live more, to love more, and leave a cherished memory than anything more, a memory to always be sensed, even if not remembered. Cultures run deep into our being, connects us with invisible roots, links us to the center of our spirit. And we only have to let it be, to trust, accept, and believe that cultures exist to teach us, to simply unite us, enrich us, make us evolve, and celebrate our beautiful variations on the ground of compatibility. The colors of the rainbows we bring for one prism to brightly glow, as we all continue on our journeys of self-discovery under the unity of a one true humanity, and learn the steps of each other's dances as we savor the taste of the wondrous knowledge of another sister called culture.
Great. Thank you so much. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think we see the different cultures here in UAE. We have a different cultures, different people, and especially the book club also have a different people, different cultures, and that's amazing. That's how you describe it all together.
And it's like the way I was telling in the beginning about how to look at things differently.
Mhm.
So you can look at cultures and think, oh, we're clashing on this, or we don't understand because of the culture. Or you can look at it that way, and you can look at it in a completely different way and go, actually, our differences help us to grow because I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, and we can create something completely new and enriching for everyone. So it's again about that, the positive way of looking at things.
Yeah, it's great. So what are your plans for the future? I mean, what now you reach the maturity of the poems and of matching the music and all that. What's next?
With this, with arts, you never have plans sometimes. I mean, definitely there are short-term plans, but in future, I never know where this is going to take me, where the words will take me, what topic. For now, it's exploring more of what life is, soul, our essence, and there are plans of a book coming out. We're still in discussion with publishers regarding a book on poetry, trying to see how we can combine it as well, that the music can be included. There's real thinking. And another one is to continue with the novel that I'm working on, which is a completely historical fiction. Again, it was inspired totally by listening to music by countertenors, that I love their songs. And so it's again related to music, set in Italy and in Spain. And then there is another event that I'll be participating in. Details will come soon, and we'll share it on social media. Which also include I will be contributing with music imagery, because that's another thing I combine, also the image, the music with the words. And finally, I'm also in the process of organizing workshops to include meditation that can help people tap into their creative side, where they can listen to music and write to music. So I'm trying to teach people to also do that for themselves, because I find it an amazing form of self-expression and therapy.
My second question, how can music be a therapy, or how can music help people to be more creative? How do you think people can get into music? And is it music for everyone, or is it like, it could be for everyone or not?
I think it's for everyone. We all love music. Music is part of a soul awakening tool. That's how I find music. It really talks to us, talks to ourselves, to our organs. It just brings something in us. And everyone has a different choice of what music they like. So once you find that music that talks to you, talk back to it with words, or dance with it.
Definitely.
Dancing is another thing.
And it's international language, as they say.
Exactly.
You know, you can, any music you can hear and work with it. So how you help people with meditation and music? Can you explain a bit more about this?
So the format, because this is what I do myself. I set my alarm for 20 minutes. I go into a completely meditative state, and I put music. I actually put my headset on, listen to music, and it's funny how many of my little poems that I actually put on Instagram come through that meditation. The words just come. Sometimes I have to just be quick to write them down before I forget them. But the state, once you can go into that relaxation state, so it's basically just taking you on a relaxation state. You go there, you're closer to your subconscious, and by listening to the music, just go with the flow. Don't think, let that logic side, let that voice keep quiet, listen to the other voice that just gives you words that go. And you would be amazed at what comes out. You would be totally amazed.
Great. And what do you say, like our talks here, we talked about creativity talks, and this is part of people who are creative, but they don't have books yet, which hopefully you will have one. And what do you recommend, or what do you advise people who have creativity, but then they give up after a while? I mean, is it something they have to like target a book, or is it, can be creative without really thinking what's coming in the future? And how that's helped you as a person?
I would say never give up believing in yourself and believing that you have a talent. We all have a talent. It just comes out in different ways. I started this as something for myself. Then I decided to start sharing it with friends. And then it grew and grew that I started having the blog and sharing it with more people. And I've started now doing the videos, which is something that I didn't want to do before, but I've been told. And it's amazing. Once you believe in yourself, you will find that there will be people who will come along your way and support you. Because there will be people that will enjoy what you give and what you offer. You are given such a talent to share. This is the message I would give.
Yeah.
Don't give up on it. It is meant for the world. It's not just for you.
Yeah, definitely. So is there a second poem you can read to us before we start? For anyone have a question?
Okay. Let me see. I might have one of the shorter ones.
Yeah. And then we'll open for questions.
This was I think I'll read the one.
So is there a second to start?
This was inspired again by one of those meditative states. I went to this exhibition and I saw these vanishing images on the walls, and like there were pictures and then they vanish. And I decided to just write a short thing, so the music is actually longer, so I wouldn't play the music. But the music is short.
Okay, you can read without music.
Yeah, I'll read it without music for now. So, and she disappears into the spirit of the night, her atoms mingling with those of an enchanted forest. She vanishes only to belong to the ethereal breeze, to become the essence of an everlasting green, to an existence that can only keep her alive and bring her back in the budding of the luminous leaves, in the blooming of knowing petals, only to reveal the secret of what is true, of what is there to stay.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. So if anyone have a question, can open, they can either write it or they can talk. Yes, Maya, I will.
Yeah, hi, this is Maya Abu Zahir. How are you?
Hi, Maya.
Yeah, you shine simply. It's just I have a small question. How is this all poems and insight and reflection and Reiki? When you are stressed in life, there is a big disaster or any kind of special stress. How does this insight help you to actually soothe things out in real life? Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. That's a beautiful question. So if you go through my blog and you see the older ones, I think there was a bit of sometimes a cry for help, a cry for what is this, why is this happening? So I remember one of the oldest poems I wrote was called In My Own Sorrow, I'm Drowning. That was really, and that one, I can't read it now. I can tell you that. It was a time where I felt hopeless and things are just not going right. Now, how I do it now, again, when I feel things are just getting to me, I try to go somewhere for the 20 minutes, put the headset on, choose a piece of music that I feel works with me at that moment. I need it. And timer 20 minutes, done. And go into that state where I can just go deeper into myself and try and see things differently. And it works.
And it helps you to calm down.
It helps me to calm down, and it helps me to see things differently.
Mm.
It helps me to see things differently.
So it's just getting it out of your system.
Getting it out of the system. And then, so the way it works now, so before I would write them and I would be like, how sad it is. But I noticed something. In all of us, there is always, always hope. Always hope for a better thing, for a better outcome, for a better day, for whatever. So I even noticed in my worst times when I wrote poetry, the old poems, there was always the ending will be ended on a positive note. Mm-hmm. I could never end it on a negative note. There was only once when I ended it in a bit of a negative note because it was about in the UK, there was the Manchester bombings, and I was looking at the picture of this girl who died, the youngest one, 8 years old, and it just hit me. And I wrote that time a poem where I think it ended with me feeling totally disappointed in humanity. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are we there, and why do we do these things to each other? But most of them, even when I was down, I would have to end it with a positive note because we all live with hope. Otherwise, we can't live.
Thank you. Okay, second question, Paula.
Hello, girls.
Hello, Paula.
Hello, everyone in the meeting. Thank you, Hin, for the wonderful interview. And Duha, well, I love your poetry. It's amazing. And I have
for joining us. Yeah.
How do you do to overcome your analytical mind? Because when you were scientific before, going the science, and then to be in the creative part, you need to go through emotions, and this is scary, at least for me sometimes. How you go to this path, even if not scientific people, normal people, the facts are more easy, I think, and the creativity came through emotion to our own inside, which is a little bit scary. How do you do that?
Okay, I was always labeled as a child as a very emotional, intense child. So I think that was always part of me. Now, how to see things. Now, I went into genetics purely because I didn't go into physics or maths because I found them, or chemistry, they're too dry for me. I even worked in pharmaceutical for a while and I just couldn't bear it. I was like getting bored of projects. That's why I'm into media, but with science. But science itself, I loved it because it is creative science. Science, when you go and you're trying to research something and find an answer to a question, you have to be creative. You can't be solid because it's not being researched. It's not in the book. So you have to go somewhere out to find answers. And I think it actually is closer to creativity and art than we think, especially at least when I'm talking about biology and genetics, because it's again about us, what we are, what we're made of. So it kind of complements. There's the physical part of us, and there is also the soul that needs the two go together. So I don't see them as separate, but maybe I did come across as the unusual student in genetics when I was at university.
I think so, because most people who study these things, they really believe in that, and they don't have a creativity side of it.
It is somewhere very, very on the drier side, but I have to say in my team, they always appreciated that I looked out of the box, because then I would find more answers by just imagining, oh, how could this cell work like that and move like this? And then you go, wow, so yeah, it helped me, and I think I definitely enjoyed it.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question from Sarmat saying, thank you so much for this wonderful webinar. I just want to ask, to what extent poetry is familiar with music, and do you think music should be included in every poem written? Where can I find Duha's poem? Is there any site available?
Yeah, the blog, we can share with them the blog. Thank you so much for this question. Sarmat, yeah. Now, if you look at all songs, when we listen to lyrics, they're poetry. They're poetry. They go with the music. So I believe all songs are poems. Now, should every poem go with music? Not necessarily. But does the music add to the poem? I believe so. It definitely gives it a stronger impact. It's like if I give you an example, you're watching a movie without a soundtrack. Sometimes the soundtrack, you don't even hear it. It's in the background. And that's how the music for this poem should be. It's there to impact, but not to be seen. So it's kind of the invisible supporter.
That's nice. So where he can find your
I have a blog called The Singing Tree of Life. It's on WordPress. The Singing Tree of Life. I can. Do you want me? I can send it to you now.
one word?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to?
I think this is correct. Let me see.
Of Life. LIF.
Oh,
Life. The singing. Yeah, it's one word. It's all together. The Singing Tree of Life.
Okay, so this is the Singing Tree of Life. Anyone want to follow up the poems?
On WordPress.
On WordPress.
Yeah, that's it. Singing Tree of Life.
WordPress.com. Yeah. Nawal says thank you for this great time you gave us today. Thank you, Nawal. Thank you for joining us. Is there any other questions? Can you check the Facebook? We'll
Sure.
see the Facebook of anyone.
So where do I open this?
Just go down. No. Oh, it's not refresh. Any questions? Let's see if anyone has said something on. Read the comments. Okay, so Celia said without music, life would be a mistake.
Very
That's,
true.
thank you, Celia, for sharing that.
True, very true.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Doha, for this lovely poems and lovely time. And the video will be on Facebook and it will be on YouTube soon. And I will also share Doha blog, so you can listen to the other poems there. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.